Yeah, this is B3 live from the 3O, bring you Elijah Vines for our second interview. My first question is, who is Elijah Vines?
Well, Elijah Dwayne Vines, if I was to define myself, I want to define myself based off a quote that I live by. And I want to define myself as a person that lives a life that legacy will outlive the life that I actually live. And when I say that is that I live by parables, meaning Elijah Vines is a person that is very understanding of being a human being, very understanding of existing in a time in which people need people, and understanding that love is what makes the world go round. So I'm literally a loving being, but I am human, so I go through trials and tribulations just like everybody else.
You're talking about legacy. So talking about your legacy here at Bowie State, what orgs have you been a part of and are a part of right now?
One of my most notable orgs that I'm a part of is called Black No Agenda. I'm also a part of a student body group called Ignite. I'm also a part of SLIP, Bethel Campus Fellowship, Student Alumni Association, and then you have, I believe I'm part of Community Student Association. That's a touchy subject because I'm never really present in that specific org, but the list can go on.
Being very active on campus, you must try to keep up with pop culture, am I right?
You can say that.
So I don't know if you heard about the Catch Me Outside girl. What's your view on that and on her being that character that she is?
Oh man, the conversation just took like a serious turn left from me talking about the enriched African American community, being at Bowie, which is an HBCU, so it's mainly about black people, and then going to someone that imitates a formality of ignorance in order to get publicity. So it's like the foolishness that goes on in today's society is very scary because someone can get famous off of doing some type of immature act because people love living in a false reality. So I say that because the moment you have someone, my melanin, your melanin, any type of shade of melanin acting in that manner, they're automatically deemed ratchet, ignorant, they're dehumanized to a sense of saying that they have no type of home training, life training, anything of that nature. However, you have someone, I don't even know the girl's name, not to be disrespectful, but I really don't know her name, and it's the fact that she got famous based off of arguing or cursing out her mother, and then going on a plane and doing the same thing. So to me, it's a whole type of ignorance to where you do it just to be famous.
Speaking of ignorance to be famous and publicity stunts, how do you feel about people using beef or publicity to further their art or to further their financial gain, such as the Nas Jay-Z beef and the Chris Brown Soulja Boy beef? Is there good beef? Is there bad beef? Or is all beef just bad?
Specifically dealing with the beef in the black community, because that's the majority of beef that I've seen shown. Of course, you got the whole political beefs and campaigns that a lot of people don't talk about, like the whole for show Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton campaign season where they poured out a lot of information about each other. Personally, I believe a lot of those things need to be dealt behind closed doors, especially if you run in the same circles. Like Nas and Jay-Z, you're both hip-hop artists, very notable, referenceable hip-hop artists, so you're running in the same circle at the end of the day, living in the upper states area, so you're going to cross paths. So at the end of the day, there's no point in pinning it on the track just to show how much respect or disrespect that you can dish out, how much respect you're aiming to get. Even with the Chris Brown and Soulja Boy situation, my whole purpose in terms of dealing with beefs is that you need to handle your situations behind closed doors, because it's not for the public's eye to see unless you're doing it for shenanigans or doing it for the sake of publicity. Because you have NWA who will say, any publicity is good publicity, a quote from Eazy-E. But at the end of the day, you also have the mindset of Malcolm X talking about, you need to handle all your affairs behind closed doors, because the world does not need to know that you have issues with the people that you're running in a community or group with, because then you can easily be destroyed.
Staying on the topic of hip-hop, another prevalent topic is, do you believe in rap subgenres, and if so, what are they?
Well, for one, if we're talking about hip-hop is an entity in itself, meaning it's not limited to just one aspect. So if we're talking about MCing and then putting rap into the category or the umbrella of MCing, then rap is already a category within MCing, which is under hip hop. So now when we go all the way down to rap, which is under already a bigger umbrella, yeah, of course there's subgenres within the realm of rapping or MCing, because it's MCing altogether. So more specifically, I'll say there's subgenres under MCing. For example, you have Bryson Tiller. He came out with his album. It was an album, correct? It was the album called Trap Soul. That is a whole nother realm of rapping, singing, vibing on different types of feels and music. Then you have, what's his name, Black, but his number, it begins with a 6. You know, I don't know if people call him 6 Lack or Black, but his whole style is different. It's like a vibe, like very melodic type tone that people come across as, okay, it's an aspect of hip hop, but it's still the brother is singing. Then you have people like Drake coming out with the whole Caribbean feels, the upbeat type tempo, but he's known for being a rapper and a singer. So of course, subgenres are very much so real. Travis Scott, you can't even put a touch on what Travis Scott does as an artist, because it's so big in terms of production, in terms of making his own music, his own type of style. And then you also have another big name that could be thrown into the subgenre category, would be Ray Schumer, as well as Lil Uzi Vert. I never been a big fan of Lil Uzi Vert because I was thinking of him as a rapper. The moment I started treating him as a rapper, that's the moment I started disrespecting him as a rapper. But in actuality, he's an artist, and his music can be added to that subgenre because he makes this type of turn up, fast beat, something like a rock and roll to our time. So I really respect that because it's different and it's bringing a different taste and a different style. Hopefully I answered that, with the best of my ability. But, yeah.
All right, staying on the topic of subgenres, like what's your genre and what's your audience?
Well, that is a great question. So I really don't want to put myself into a category saying what's my audience or limiting myself to a certain group, because yeah, you can have a core audience, a core following, but that's always subject to expand or condense depending on what you're doing, moving as an artist. Excuse me. But in terms of my music, what I really go for is that conscious feel in terms of touching on things that people are very nervous or feel like they are inclined to stay away from as an artist. So I like to stay on a conscious tip in terms of spreading knowledge. I also like to keep people feeling good and talk about life parables or situations in which I'm going through certain things. But I also like to get very personal and talk about relationships, talk about struggles, whether it's a struggle with someone from the middle class, a struggle from the poor class, a struggle with somebody with money, and literally paint pictures about different struggles that people have had that I feel as if someone isn't already talking about. I also like to make upbeat music, some music that someone can turn up to and vibe with and literally, just enjoy themselves to, because at the end of the day, I want to touch base on different vibrations. Because that's what music is. So I want to take you on a journey. That's literally how I can define my music, as a journey.
Since you were talking about hip hop as it being such an ever-expanding thing, what's your working definition of rap and hip hop to you?
So, two different definitions. My definition of rap would be laying down a track and using rhythm, high beats, and a lot of type of lyricism to convey a message. Literally exposing the things that are going on that you feel as if no one else is touching base on. So telling a story, the art of storytelling. Similar to poetry, but to an upbeat or a beat that is following different frequencies. So you're like vibing on a beat, but is a little more aggressive than your typical rhythm and blues or jazz, anything of that nature. Hip hop, however, is an entire entity in itself. Rap is placed under the umbrella of hip hop, but if I was to deem a name for hip hop, I would have to quote a brother by the name of Professor Griff, who was a part of Public Enemy. Hip hop is an acronym standing for High Infinite Power Healing Our People. Because at the end of the day, we're dealing with frequencies here, we're dealing with rhythms, and we're also dealing with something that's moving the way you feel, the way you live, and the way you elevate or digress in your way of life. That's why music is so important. And hip hop is not only just the acronym, but it's also elements. So the elements of hip hop comes from MCing, b-boying, also known as breakdancing. You have graffiti, and then last but not least, you have DJing. So DJing is a high aspect of the music sense of hip hop, using those frequencies to get people to move. You have MCing, that's where rapping falls under the category of, and then you have graffiti, which is like the visual. Now, b-boying and dancing, that's when you use that rhythm, that frequency, and them vibrations to start allowing your ancestors to speak through you. So you move in ways that's called sacred geometry. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on.
But since hip hop, as you said again, is a very expansive, I guess, what's your top 5 dead or alive artists?
My top 5 dead or alive, or dead and alive artists. Number 1 would have to be Tupac Shakur, also known as the same Parish Crooks, because that was just one of my inspirations growing up. Even though I'm a whole generation after him, the fact he planted that seed growing up to be revolutionary, to be many, faces into one person, not being afraid to have different personalities, and also literally lay your life down on the line to being what you are, which is an artist, being human. That's one of the greatest aspects that I get. Number 1. Number 2 is, is very, very much so subject to change. But number 2 would have to be a Kendrick Lamar, and it's a battle between Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole, because they do that today. They put a lot of soul, consciousness, and also emotion into their music as of today, in a time where a lot of trap music and different things of that nature rule the land. So you have people that's still talking about the things that are going on that affect you and me, versus just talking about, guns, drugs, and even though that may be their struggle, but guns, drugs, and sex and things of that nature, they're more deep into their music. Number 3 would be Logic, because it comes from the DMV. So that's very inspirational for me, because it gives me the mindset that I can make it out as an artist in which I reside, to talking about different things and stories. And Logic has a very distinctive flow. Then you have number 4, Big Sean. The only reason why I picked Big Sean as number 4 is because Logic is number 3 in my category because of where he's coming from. So I can relate to Logic due to being in this area, making it out against a lot of different artists. And Big Sean is a very, very, very inspirational artist, because he is a lyricist that is an underdog when he's very, very great. And I say that because he doesn't get enough credit where credit is due. But he's a whole lyricist under beats that people use for trap artists and so forth. So I respect him because he can say so much within so little time. And then number 5, right? It's a 5 list. Whew. Number 5 on my list. Number 5 on my list would have to be. Oh, this is so difficult because it's number 5.
Go ahead, man. Shoot your shot.
Number 5 would have to be Kanye West. And the only reason why I put him at number 5 is because his recent actions in terms of just the way he's been moving lately is different from how I'm used to seeing Kanye, dealing with college dropout Kanye. One thing that he's still very, very great at is telling his story, regardless of what level he's at. He's still very great at painting a picture. He's a very intuitive person. Like, he thinks very deep. So Kanye is only at number 5, and like again, it's subject to change, because the life of Pablo got me through a lot of different struggles mentally. Even though he was telling a story from such a high level, I still related to it because of certain things that he was saying, that I could feel him at, where he's like exposing different things that he wouldn't normally talk about.
Like, the thing about when you were telling that, when you were telling your top 5 list, is you had the old school, you had Tupac, you had the new school, Kendrick and Big Sean. You also had the kind of like the middle school with Kanye. When did you start writing?
I started writing in the 8th grade, and I'm a junior in college now, so that gives you like a nice little timeline. But I started writing hip hop or rap music in the 8th grade because I was very, very upset with how I was just living. And And that's not necessarily talking about my living condition, but just mentally I had to get something off because I had a lot of anger that was bottled up and a lot of aggression that I was feeling, and it was like I just had to really get it out. So in the 8th grade, I was writing as a very aggressive artist that had nothing but cuss words in my music. Like literally, that's all I knew. I was talking about a bunch of stuff that I didn't do, about a bunch of recklessness and just imitating other artists. And then the 9th grade is when I pursued poetry, which allowed me to be more refined as a lyricist in terms of subject matter. So that gives you a time frame into how long I've been rapping and writing poetry and being a lyricist altogether.
So I know you started writing very early on, but I see you perform a lot. So what was your favorite performance here at Bowie, or just a performance in general?
Performance of myself?
Yes.
Or of singing?
Performance of yourself.
My favorite performance, that's very hard, a very difficult answer, because it always changes with the different things that I do in each performance, because every performance that I do is very much so real to me. But if I had to pinpoint something, would be auditioning for Bowie's Got Talent, because I never made it. In the 3 years in which I auditioned for Bowie's Got Talent, being here at Bowie State, I never made it. And I really believe that was either because of my content or something of that nature. But each time I went away learning something new about myself, is that I had to humble myself. So I'll say I probably held back in those performances, or I gave it all I got and used the wrong song. And I'll say that was one of the biggest performances because it's not a large crowd. It's literally a bunch of, 5 people. And they're fellow students, so I'm like, what opinion can they give me about my music that can really tell me I'm good enough or not? So I say that was a big experience for me, because it humbled me, letting me know that I still have room to grow, regardless if I was good enough to be on stage or not. It gave me the perspective of I should be ready to shine at any given moment, at every given time, and perform, whether it's 500 people, 5 people, or just one person, or just myself. That always shine, because you never know what opportunity may be there for you.
So I see you had some mixed reviews as your performances amongst some of your peers. So do you feel Bowie has given you fair opportunities as an entrepreneur and an artist?
No. So in terms of opportunities at Bowie, it was very small. And I appreciate all the groups that help me as an artist, even if it's a talent showcase, if it's opportunities for open mic, if it's an opportunity to act, if it's an opportunity to portray who I am as an artist and entrepreneur. I very much so thank them and respect them for that, because it's a minority, like I said before. But in this specific case, no, Bowie as a whole has not supported me as an entrepreneur or as an artist. And I believe because it's just not my time, or it's not my market, because of what I bring to the table. A lot of the times I believe not enough people are ready for that, because I come from a perspective that you actually have to sit down and listen to what I'm saying versus just trying to turn up to it, because I'd rather you listen to my words than listen to the beat by itself. Then I feel like I'm not doing enough of you just listening to my music for the beat. You might as well just listen to the producer. So from my perspective as an artist, no, Bowie has not really given me that much of an opportunity to shine.
I remember earlier in your explanation you were talking about finances, you being a college student. You don't mind me asking, where'd you get the capital to start your business?
I believe that's a personal question. I do have a job, so I'll let you know that I am employed. So I say some of that money goes or comes from that, but the rest of the way in which I'm funding my business, I don't feel a liberty to explain that, because there are people listening that may try to destroy my brand or destroy me if they knew how to get the money the same way I'm doing. Not saying that I'm in it for the whole crabs in a barrel concept, but it's just, I'd rather someone come to me and ask it in a personal setting versus the whole world to know, because you never know their ill mind or their intent.
What sparked your interest in business?
I'm not necessarily interested in business. I'm more so interested in giving stuff back to the people. Not just a product, but more so giving them a piece of my life, piece of my perspective, and also adding to the understanding of hip hop. So it's like the graffiti. My clothing line is like a representation of what's happening right now, what's happening today. what's happening not only in the black community, but in the subject of the world today. And I say that because every aspect of history needs a historian, whether it's writing down a book, painting, photography, whatever you deem it to be. Fashion can very much so lay in that. So in terms of my venture right now as an entrepreneur is the venture of clothing and putting a perspective around clothing and what's really going on. And I say that because this is a sacred geometry symbol, meaning everything is connected, everything is aligned. It's an acronym, SWAT. SWAT stands for SWAT, which stands for Speak Wisdom and Truth, Successfully Winning All Tasks. Because that's what you want to be as a human. That's what you need to do in all times of trials and tribulations. And posse is just a term for a crew, a clique, a team, and a family.
Like I remember I was talking to you earlier off camera, and you were talking about there's like a faith portion to your brand and to your imagery. You mind touching on that? How faith has inspired your business and your art?
So faith has inspired my art and my business, and just me as an individual, because I understand that there's something higher, something sacred touching us as human beings, because we're a being. We're not just confined to a body. Our spirit and our soul is the biggest thing that makes us thrive and move. So the faith comes in because you have to have a faith in the Creator, a trust in what has created you to be, your purpose, a drive. To have faith is to be able to will through the trials and tribulations, be able to will and have the ambition and the drive to when you say, what's going on? I'm living in the worst condition that I feel like I could be living in, and I want to continue to move. So that faith throws you into the fire or throws you into the situation and lets you know you're still here for a reason, you have a purpose. So when I say speak wisdom and truth, when I say successfully winning all tasks, I'm saying it in the understanding that you have that drive and that goal to continue to move, because it's that sacred geometry that puts everything together, meaning everything moves based off of everything. You need air in order to breathe. Trees give off what? Carbon dioxide and oxygen. We are taking the oxygen, we give off carbon dioxide from the trees. So it's literally that interconnected relationship.
You're motivated by being socially conscious, and I saw you just at the HBCU rally. How, do you feel that it's an artist's responsibility to be socially conscious?
Well, in terms of dealing with an artist, I can't speak on behalf of other artists because they have their own motives and their own drive. But when it comes down to talking about me as an artist, I wear many hats. Businessman, artist, student, different things. So if I'm coming as an activist, I'm coming as an activist. But Eli the Authentic is the artist. Elijah Vines is one of the social activists. So you saw me at the HBC rally. I wasn't coming there to rap. I wasn't coming there to do poetry. I was coming there to be conscientious and speak on behalf of my community. And that's the beauty about being a person that's a Renaissance, individual, or someone that is not limited, because there's so many things that you can do. So as an artist, no, I wasn't there as an artist.
You were there though. Can you speak on the environment of the court case and of the people that attended it?
It was humbling because it's a part of history, for one. Very real, because you're watching a whole segment of your life be challenged, or the lives that's coming after you be challenged right before your eyes, and them questioning your worth right before your eyes, and making an invalid argument against your whole statement, saying that we matter, that we deserve to continue to exist. So it was very interesting being a part of that historic event. It was very moving and inspirational, being surrounded by Morgan, Coppin State, of course Bowie State, and UMES, being around those other brothers and sisters. It was amazing, because now we have that understanding, camaraderie, and also reciprocity, and the understanding of just family and being together when you need each other the most.
How do you think the impact of that case can affect the tradition at Bowie State?
It can destroy the tradition if we lose, because essentially it will come down to the point where we can no longer have funding for all the fancy buildings such as the one we're residing in right now to fund, to keep it running. And then it'll come to the point where you have Towson, University of Maryland, or whatever big name PWI that resides in Maryland buying out our schools, such as what happened to Morris Brown. You know, they end up buying some of your buildings because you can't afford to run it. And then next thing you know, there won't be a such thing as an HBCU anymore, because it'll just be a hyper extension of a PWI, such as the University of Baltimore, college. You know, that's a whole subsection of University of Maryland or University of Towson, excuse me. But if we lose, we very much so will lose the understanding of what our history is, the whole purpose of an HBCU.
Yeah, where do you see Bowie State 10 years from now? Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I see Bowie State 10 years from now shining as a beautiful representation of black love, black politics, and black power. And being able to go into any community and shine. You know, I see the power of the degrees, the power of the students, and the power of the minds leaving here and understanding that we are very much so competitive in any atmosphere. And we can shine because we're diverse. Myself 10 years from now, still doing my thing as an artist, maybe on the billboards, maybe acting in a movie, maybe very, very successful with my clothing line or working on a whole nother venture. 10 years from now, I'll be traveling. I'll let you know that now. I won't be pencil pushing behind a desk because that's just not my calling in my life. I really want to touch the lives of masses of people. So I'll be, wearing one of my many hats.
B3 out here live from the 3 with Elijah Vines. It was a good interview.
Lost in my thoughts and I ain't thinking about no female. Life of a young teen working in that retail, overthinking everything, I'm stuck up on them details. But I can see my future coming, swear I'm about to prevail. My own world I'm thinking in, thank you for visiting. These niggas do not see the good conditions that they living in. Ain't that shit sickening? I represent my citizens, the chosen one from 301, legitimate significance.